Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. I think we're going to call this the weather edition because right here in Southwest Louisiana, we are under some severe weather at the moment. Matter of fact, this would be the current radar. I'm that little white and blue dot in the center there. It's really nasty outside. There's tornado warnings, flash flood warnings, blizzard warnings, fire warnings, earthquake warnings. You name it. It's just the alerts are going off constantly. So we will see if we will get through this. If not, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I can't deal with Mother Nature. I sure don't have the budget to do what the big folks do over at Fox and CNN and places like that. Anyhow, you had a lot of places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Tonight's lead story is one that is very upsetting to those in the military, as well as veterans, especially those of us that fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, those of us that have served post 9/11, especially, because we know the truth. We know the truth. The biggest outright lie ever to be told to the American people by any administration took place today, right here in America. The White House today released its review of President Biden's fumble to withdraw from Afghanistan in 2021, dropping the long-awaited report days before the Easter holiday, while former President Donald Trump was indicted, dominating the headlines. And a 12-page outline, Biden officials defended the president's decision to withdraw, calling his decision to end the 2 decades-long war the right thing to do for the country. While I agree, we needed to get the hell out of there. The report does not appear to acknowledge any mistakes by the Biden administration. However, the document repeatedly criticizes the Trump administration for the constraining conditions of American evacuation, during which 13 American soldiers died in a suicide bombing while protecting the Kabul airport. That is utter bullshit. The review does acknowledge that the evacuation of Americans and allies from Afghanistan should have started sooner, but blames the delays on the Afghan government and military and on U.S. military intelligence community assessments. President Biden's choice for how to execute a withdrawal from Afghanistan was severely constrained by conditions created by his predecessor. The document states, the White House accuses Trump of emboldening the Taliban by engaging in peace talks without consulting U.S. allies and partners in the region. The document emphasizes that at the same time, Trump was decreasing the U.S. military presence in Afghanistan with a series of drawdowns that started throughout 2020. During the transition from the Trump administration to the Biden administration, the ongoing administration provided no plans for how to conduct the final withdrawal or to evacuate Americans and allies, the White House says. Are we going to tear this shit apart here in just a few minutes? Indeed, there was no such plan in place when President Biden came into office, Even with the agreed upon full withdrawal over just 3 months away, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan became the disastrous collapse of the Afghan National Security Forces and the Taliban takeover cabal on August 15, 2021. Biden oversaw evacuation efforts from U.S. allies, translators, and Afghan refugees concerned at risk for retribution for the radical Islamic forces overtaking the country. Nearly 1,000 American citizens were left behind. Some evacuated, many others not, many others killed, many others are being held hostage right this very moment. Thousands of Afghan allies remain in the country. The document released by the Pentagon or by the White House gives a broad overview of the administration's actions and recounts the details of the Afghan withdrawal from their perspective. Their perspective, by the way, they just soon smoked fucking meth and took some Quaaludes, drank a fifth of Jack Daniels, smoked some pot, and did some battery acid. That's what their perspective is. As you all know, over these many months, departments and agencies key to the withdrawal conduct throughout internal after-action reviews, each of them examining their decision-making process, as well as how those decisions were executed, White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said Thursday, and that, by the way, as you've heard me say many times before, is one of the biggest wasted pieces of shit in U.S. government. John fucking Kirby is an idiot. Today, they're making those reviews available to relevant committees in the Senate and the House, as previewed by Secretaries Blinken and Austin in testimony last month, he added. Hold on. Let me take a drink of coffee because I need to be more energized. By the time Biden assumed office, the White House says, the Taliban were the strongest military position they had been in since 2001, controlling or contesting nearly half of the country. While it was always the president's intent to end that war, it is also undeniable that that decision made and the lack of planning done by the previous administration significantly limited options available to him, Kirby told reporters today at the White House press briefing. President Biden inherited a forced presence in Afghanistan of some 2,500 troops. That was the lowest since 2001. He inherited a special immigrant visa program that had been starved of resources. And he inherited a deal struck between the previous administration and the Taliban that called for the complete removal of all U.S. troops by May of 2021, or else the Taliban, which had stopped its attacks while the deal was in place, would go back to war against the United States. They need a backhoe for the fucking lies in this story. Kirby said the Trump administration failed to provide any plans to remove U.S. troops, the transition security to the Afghan government, or to increase processing for special immigrant visas for Afghan allies. That's the first lesson learned here, and the incoming administration wasn't much to be told, he said. We were not told what to do. Though President Biden's choice was stark, either withdraw our forces or resume fighting with the Taliban. He chose the former. And that, my friends, is the biggest fucking lie ever told by any administration in the United States history. So let me break this down very, very simple. Dear Joe Biden, as president after you took office on January 21st, 2021, you should have brought into your office the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Secretary of Defense. You should have asked them, is there a plan to withdraw our military forces and get out of Afghanistan? If the answer is no, sir, former President Trump did not give us an order to do so, then you order them to come up with a plan. It's your responsibility as the commander-in-chief of the military. If they say, sir, we need more time than the allocated time to do this, which was set for May 1st, then you give them that time. But wait, that's exactly what the fuck happened. That's the truth. They told you, Joe, they needed more time, and you, sir, gave them more time. You set the withdrawal date per their request back to August 31st of 2021. You gave them an additional 3 months on top of the already 3 months they had to accomplish a simple military withdrawal plan. So the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Secretary of Defense had a total of 7 months from the time you took office to devise a plan to withdraw forces from Afghanistan. Yet you blame President Trump for your 100% failure to lead as commander-in-chief of our armed forces. You, sir, are at fault, along with your Joint Chiefs of Staff, your Secretary of Defense, and not Donald J. Trump. I don't give a fuck what you say about Donald J. Trump. I don't give a fuck how much you don't like Donald J. Trump. This shit is on your ass. The blood of the soldiers that we lost in that entire fucking conflict is on you for allowing this stupid shit to go through. When they came up with a plan, it didn't work the way they planned, and that's Trump's fault. You're a fucking disgrace. Your entire administration is a fucking disgrace. And there's absolutely no reason to lie anymore about your failures. We know the difference. If nobody else watched the fucking TV and watched C-SPAN and watched the investigations that took place and watched what came out of the House and the Senate and watched those testifying in the military, if nothing else, I assure you, the veterans of this country that served in Afghanistan and Iraq and during that period fighting against Islamic terrorists know damn good and well how you, sir, and your administration are to blame for this entire fuck up in Afghanistan. Shifting the blame towards anyone else, it's outright disgraceful and, fuck, as far as I'm concerned, lop it in the column of treason because you're wrong. It's absolutely wrong, and that's not what happened. John Kirby is a fucking idiot, and anybody who gave him those talking points today is also a fucking idiot. I think I'll have some more coffee. North Korea is warning today that recent U.S.-South Korea military drills are pushing the security situation in the region to the brink of nuclear war. Fiery remarks come a day after the U.S. military flew nuclear-capable B-52 bombers over the Korean peninsula during joint exercises with South Korea. These exercises, by the way, have been going on every year since the Korean conflict ended with an armistice on 27 July 1953. They're nothing new. The aircraft carrier USS Nimitz participated in naval submarine drills this week alongside U.S., South Korea, and Japanese destroyers. Article published by the state-run Korean Central News Agency today said the U.S. kicked off joint military drills despite North Korea's repeated grave warnings, pushing the security situation on the Korean peninsula to the brink of a nuclear war. U.S.-led allied forces were busy with anti-submarine warfare drill and search and rescue drill in the waters around the Korean peninsula to stoke an atmosphere of confrontation with North Korea. The hostile forces made threatening remarks against North Korea, saying that the drill, which was hosted to improve an allied's capability for coping with underwater threat from North Korea, promoted the tightening of the allied deterrence and security cooperation, it was added. Now, the international community unanimously hopes that the dark cloud of nuclear war hanging over the Korean Peninsula will be removed as early as possible and peace and stability brought to the fore, the article stated. The article concluded by saying, as unanimously recognized by the international community, the U.S. and its vessel forces, frantic joint military drills have turned the Korean Peninsula into a huge powder magazine, which can be detonated at any moment in the vicinity of the North or the Korean Peninsula into a firing range exclusive to the U.S. imperialist aggression and a world-class exhibition of strategic weapons. It warned in response, North Korea's war deterrence will continue to show its responsibility for and confidence in its critical mission through offensive actions without elaborating. Last month, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called on his country to be ready to launch a nuclear attack against America. His comments came after a flurry of missile launches, which saw North Korea testing its capabilities. Do you all remember when Trump was in office? We were respected as a great military power, and other countries did not fuck with us. Well, thanks to Joe Biden and his weak-ass administration, we now are back in the Cold War. Russia is threatening to use nuclear weapons to kill us. Iran is threatening to use nuclear weapons to kill us. China is threatening to back up Russia from any nuclear attack to kill us. And North Korea is threatening to use nuclear weapons to kill us. The left and the Democrats screamed at the top of their fucking lungs that Trump was going to get us all killed in a nuclear war. Yet these same Democrats and liberals are saying nothing about what Biden administration has done to us right now. Not a fucking word. Crickets when it comes to that shit. While America is on the brink of the biggest financial crisis in history, with banks closing and the dollar about to be obsolete, gas and oil prices about to once again skyrocket. Wait till you see what the prices will be in the next 2 months. The cost of goods in our grocery stores skyrocketing. Our infrastructure collapsing, with trains derailing every week now. Police officers under attack by the radical Democrats and liberals and their defund the police movement. Our southern border under attack with illegals, gang members, sex trafficking, and tons of drugs. Our inner cities riddled with black-on-black crime and murder. A transgender biological man who identifies as a woman being labeled a victim after shooting up a school, killing children and teachers. Our military at its lowest recruiting goal since the end of the fucking draft after Vietnam. Russia, Iran, and North Korea threatening to wipe us off the face of the earth with nuclear weapons. The Biden administration is rolling out what's most important to them. With all of that shit happening, this is what's most important to them. You ready for this silly shit? The Biden administration is rolling out new Title IX rules to expand the meaning of sexual discrimination to include gender identity that will prevent schools and colleges from banning transgender athletes. Under the department's proposed rules, no school or college that receives federal funding would be allowed to impose a one-size-fits-all policy that categorically bans transgender students from playing sports teams consistent with their gender identity. Such policies would be considered a violation of Title IX. The U.S. Department of Education proposed to amend its regulations implementing Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 to set out a standard that would govern a recipient's adoption or application of sex-related criteria that would limit or deny a student's eligibility to participate on a male or female athletic team consistent with what they identify as. The proposed regulation would clarify Title IX applicants to such sex-related criteria and the obligation of schools and other recipients of federal financial assistance from the department. and adopt or apply such criteria and do so consistent with Title IX's non-discrimination mandate. In a press release, the administration said the proposed rule affirms that students benefit from a chance to join a school sports team to learn about teamwork, leadership, and physical fitness. The proposed rule would establish the policies that violate Title IX when they categorically ban transgender students from participating on sports teams consistent with their gender identity just because of who they are. The proposed rules also recognize that in the same instance, particularly in competitive high school and college athlete environments, some schools may adopt policies that limit transgender student participation. The proposed rules would provide schools with a framework for developing eligibility criteria that protects students from being denied equal athletic opportunity or giving schools the flexibility to develop their own participation policies. The proposed rule sends a political counterpunch towards a wave of Republican-led states that have sought to ban transgender athletes from competing in school sports that align with their gender identities. If finalized, the proposal would become enshrined as a provision of Title IX, the landmark gender equality legislation enacted back in 1972. It must undergo a lengthy approval process, however, and it's almost certain to face challenges from opponents. You bet. The plan has earned pushback from many conservative groups who argue the president does not have the legal authority to make changes to Title IX, and oh, by the way, he doesn't. The department does not have the legal authority to issue regulations that would subvert rather than fulfill the requirements of Title IX by permitting or requiring biological males who identify as females to compete in sex-separated women's sports and to use in the intimate facilities such as bathrooms and locker rooms and share spaces with female students. We anticipate that the coming rulemaking of athletes will similarly conflict gender identities with Title IX sex-based protections and degrade those very protections. More than 24 organizations wrote to Biden in a letter earlier this year. Education Secretary Manuel Cordero has said that he supports allowing biological male transgender people to compete in women's sports. He said during his confirmation hearing that it is critically important that educators and school systems respect the rights of all students, including students who are transgender, and that all students should be able to participate in activities. Now, let's stop there for just a minute. How do we fix this problem? All right? Because it is a problem. Let's just face reality here. It's become a problem. In all our schools, K through 12, and our universities, the Olympics, where males, biological males, want to identify as a female and then go over to the female sports to compete and whip their ass. Because males, due to our biological makeup, in general, most, 98.9%, are stronger than females. It's the way our structure is built. It's the way we were made. That's why you see these transgenders winning all these sports in the women's swim competition and the running competitions, all this shit they're competing in. Now, I don't think we're going to see situations where transgenders want to join the NFL, get the shit knocked out of them. They're not going to want to go into boxing or MMA, okay? But when let's back up. When it comes to junior high school, college, all right, everybody should be treated equal. I understand that. I get that. And they should. But when we put in this transgender situation, what changes is the intimate parts of this: the restrooms, the locker rooms, the showers. Because most, not all, most young girls do not want to be in the locker room changing and in a shower with a penis hanging out. Okay, let's face the facts. They're not going to feel comfortable. We know that. That's happening right now all over the country in different locations. That shit's going down, and it's going to court where girls are saying this isn't okay. And it's not okay. So how do we fix that? How do we make it okay? I'm all about coming up with solutions to fix problems. And I typically don't go off on rants about fucked up shit unless I have a solution of how it should be done or how it could be done or how we can improve it. But in this situation, it's very difficult because the only logical thing I can come up with is the thing that the transgender community is going to fight against. And that is, if we allow this boy who wants to identify as a girl to be on this sports team, they're not allowed to use the locker room facilities and the shower facilities when the females are changing or showering. That's the only way this would be okay with me as a parent. And I imagine with most parents out there. We know there are documented cases of transgender males, claiming to be a female, assaulting the girls, assaulting women in bathrooms. There are some pedophiles out there that aren't transgender at all. They just use that as a way to get into the women's restrooms. That exists. So there has to come a point where we have people in positions of power that come up with solutions to where transgender people do not feel discriminated against. And they shouldn't feel discriminated against. But how do you do that? And trust me, it's what's happening is the minority, and it's just a small percentage of people we're talking about here, is dominating the majority because those in leadership in the majority are too weak to stand up to them and say no because, it's not politically correct. So I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I know that there's got to be some kind of rules put into place when it comes to the bathroom facilities. Maybe say if they've had a complete sex change operation, the transition has been completed, then maybe it's okay. But otherwise, it's not. When it comes to males competing in female sports, how does that make it fair for the women or the girls that have the muscle makeup or the bone structure to continue to dominate in their field? And we see that happening more and more in cases that are popping up every week in the news, where some guy who identifies as a female competed with the females and just whipped their ass in that sport. So it is a serious problem. And it's got to be addressed in a way that's going to make everybody happy. I don't have that locked in and focused on how to share that with you. I know many of you probably have your own thoughts on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So in the comment section of this show, please explain if you think or you know of an idea as to how to make this fair, because it's going to happen, my friends. It's happening now. They're integrating these two together. So how do you make it okay? I'd love to hear your comments on that. Moving on, bad news for Joe Biden. Joe Biden now has a Democrat competitor for the nomination of the 2024 presidency. Environmental lawyer and anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has filed paperwork with the Federal Elections Commission to run for president in 2024 as a Democrat. The filing was confirmed yesterday by his campaign treasurer, Johnny Sullivan. Kennedy will officially announce his candidacy on April 19th in Boston, his campaign said. The 69-year-old Kennedy is the son of former New York Senator, U.S. Attorney General, and assassinated 1968 presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy, and the nephew of the late President John F. Kennedy. Stick a fork in it, Joe, you're done. You don't stand a chance at the nomination now. Kennedy Jr. is a longtime vaccine skeptic. He has promoted claims linking vaccine and autism and funded the anti-vaccine organization Children's Health Defense. He's also criticized the federal government's handling of the pandemic. Just last year, Kennedy Jr. invoked Nazi Germany in an anti-vaccine speech at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. The previous year, 2021, Instagram took down his account for repeatedly sharing what they claimed as debunked information about the coronavirus and vaccines. Kennedy had tweeted last month that he was considering a presidential run. If it looks like I can raise the money and mobilize enough people to win, I'll jump in the race. His tweet also pointed supporters to his website. Let Bobby know what you see, what you think of his leadership and going to the White House. And of course, asking for donations if you want to see him move on up there. As an environmental lawyer, Kennedy worked with the group that led the Hudson River cleanup. He also worked for the National Resource Defense Council and co-funded an environmental law firm. Should he go through with his presidential bid, Kennedy would be the latest in a long line of family members to enter politics. His sister Kathleen serves as the lieutenant governor of Maryland from 1995 to 2003. His brother Joseph was a congressman from Massachusetts from 1987 to 1999. The last Kennedy to hold election office was his nephew from Massachusetts, Representative Joe Kennedy III, who lost the Democrat Senate primary in 2020. He is now the U.S. Special Envoy of Northern Ireland. Caroline Kennedy, the daughter of former President Kennedy, is currently the U.S. Ambassador to Australia. The 2024 Democrat presidential race is only beginning to take shape, with President Joe Biden expected to announce his bid for a second term coming up real soon. Author Madeleine Wilson's launched a second long shot campaign for the Democrat presidential nomination last month. On the Republican side, former President Donald Trump jump-started the race for the party nomination, announcing his third bid for the White House last year. Former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley from Arkansas, Governor Alicia Hutchinson, and entrepreneur Vijay Ramsway are also in the race, while other well-known contenders include Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former Vice President Mike Pence are weighing bids of their own. So, you heard it right here. 4/6/2023 at 8:34 p.m., Douglas Ducote predicted that Joe Biden does run for the nomination from the Democrat Party as long as Kennedy is in play. Joe Biden is not. There's no fucking way the Democrats will allow Joe Biden to continue on as president for the next 4 years if Robert F. Kennedy is in the race. speaking of Democrats, a Democrat senator, not a Republican senator, said that China intended to invade the airspace over our U.S. when a balloon transferred over the country for days in February, and he plans to hold the Biden administration accountable. Senator John Tester, Democrat of Montana, turned to social media on Monday, after reading an article on NBC that said the Chinese spy balloon did collect intelligence from multiple military sites in the U.S., even though the Biden administration attempted to stop it from doing so, citing 2 senior officials and a senior administration official. We knew all along that China's invasion of our airspace was no accident, he said. There's nothing more important than keeping America safe, and I'll keep holding the Biden administration accountable to ensure Montana's freedom and privacy are protected. The NBC article points out that China could control the balloon and make multiple passes over sites before transmitting the information back to China in real time, according to 3 officials. The same officials told NBC that China may have gathered more intelligence from military sites had it not been for the Biden administrations to block the electronic signaling from the balloon, but by the time they did that, it was too late. Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Tsai was questioned extensively about the Chinese balloon during a press briefing this past Monday. She reiterated comments made earlier that the balloon could hover and maneuver, so it purposely followed along a specific track. What we did do is take precautionary steps to limit the intelligence value that it could be able to collect, she said. We took steps to protect our own military installations from foreign intelligence collection. She went on to say because the steps were taken, the U.S. was able to prevent the transmission of certain aspects of the site. But in terms of what was transmitted back to China, she could not answer. Because all of the above she just said is a fucking lie. We're still doing an assessment of what exactly the intel was that China was able to gather, she said. But we do know that the steps that we took provided little addictive value for what they've been able to collect. The data, she said, is being analyzed in Quantico, Virginia, though it will be available, or when it will be available is unknown. And it's unknown because it will not be made available, because the Chinese did exactly what they wanted to do, and the Bidens allowed them to do it because, might have something to do with the $3 million payment that Hunter Biden was given to distribute between himself and his daddy and his daddy's brother. Yep, they were in bed with the Chinese, deeply, not to mention Ukraine. Former President Donald Trump's Sixth Amendment rights have been violated when New York County District Attorney Alvin Bragg refused to disclose the underlying crime the defendant intended to conceal through his alleged fabrication of business records. The Sixth Amendment provides in part for the right of a criminal defendant to be informed of the nature and case of the accusations, to be confronted with the witness against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor. When questioned by a reporter as to what the underlying crime the indictment fails to name is, Braggs replied in the New York State, he does not have to do so. The indictment doesn't specify it because the law does not require it, he said. Legal analyst Greg Jarrett questioned whether DA Alvin Bragg slept through constitutional law in his studies at Harvard, envisioning the prosecutor working late one evening in New York City, mumbling to himself, I've got to get Trump. I've got to get Trump. I've got to get Trump. What crime? What crime? And then an office worker simply replied, just don't say anything. And that's exactly what happened. Jarrett recalled a warning from former Supreme Court Justice Robert H. Jackson, a Nuremberg trial prosecutor, who said the greatest danger to justice is an unscrupulous prosecutor who targets a person and then scores the law books to find an offense he can pin on that person. That's what Alvin Braggs has done, he said. This is such a circus, and it's absurd, and it's very ridiculous. Alvin Braggs is so embarrassed himself, embarrassed to the legal profession, that's really going to, I think, set the tone for anything else any of these wacko, crazy, lunatic, left-wing, politicized Democrat DAs want to try to do to destroy Donald Trump. Another Democrat prosecutor investigating Trump is Fulton County, Georgia, Vanna Wells. The case is the largest of a handful of counties. The city of Atlanta compromises centers of allegations Trump violated the law when he asked Georgia Secretary of State Bradford Raffensperger to find a number of votes equal to what he needed to win the state of Georgia. Trump is also under special counsel investigation after Attorney General Merrick Garland named now former Kosovo Wars prosecutor John Jack Smith to probe the discovery of classified documents at the former president's Palm Beach home. Trump also faces a civil suit in New York City from Advice E columnist Jean Carroll, who alleged Trump sexually assaulted her sometime in early 1995 or 1996, but you can't remember what year it was. In a January deposition transcript, Trump denied the incident, saying that Carroll said I did something to her that never took place. There was no anything. I know nothing about this nut job. Quote, end quote, Donald J. Trump. San Francisco Mayor London Breed is taking drastic measures to battle the city's spiraling crime crisis, seeking federal assistance as it continues to endure street riddles with drugs, violence, and homelessness. The mayor has ironically been known by her critics as a defund the police advocate. But as her police department faces steep staffing hurdles aimed at the drug epidemic, she sought federal assistance to relieve the city of its year-long challenges. The scale of the problem is beyond our local capacity, she wrote in a partnership plea to U.S. Attorney Ismail Ramsey in a March letter, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. As a result, she has garnered fierce scrutiny for her pro-police critics who have called her out for pivoting on the issue. San Francisco Police Officers Association, Lieutenant Tracy McCray, is one of those critics who called out the San Francisco mayor for hating law enforcement while noting that officers are a critical key in curbing the city's issues. If you want to have a police department, you want morale to be good, you want people to do their job. Unfortunately, yes, right? You need us to do our job, right? She said during America's Newsroom on Monday. Stop hating what you need. Obviously, no one else is going to go and deal with this problem but the police. You throw everything on us. So you know what? Stop criticizing us. Stop trying to break us down because you need to deal with it, she continued. Breed's letter placed emphasis on curbing San Francisco's open-air drug market, and fentanyl-related overdoses continue to soar. We need additional and ongoing support from the Department of Justice to arrest and prosecute drug dealers so residents, family, and workers feel safe in their neighborhoods, she wrote. Hopefully, it's not too late, too little, too late, McCarthy said in response. You recognize that you have a problem. You need to move forward. We want to move forward. Obviously, everyone knows about our staffing crisis, so this is no secret. And believe me, you want to call the Department of Justice to help you with this problem before you have to call in the National Guard because you don't have a police force, she continued. According to city data, the San Francisco Police Department is now understaffed by 541 officers because of the mayor's hate towards police saying fuck you and quitting, retiring, walking away from the fucking job because the mayor hates them. The city council hates them. And now crime goes to shit. And now you want the federal government to come in and save your ass. Fuck San Francisco. An audit of state records even revealed the San Francisco Police Department hired dozens of either unqualified or undocumented officers to tackle the shortages. according to a report published back in March. Within the last 7 years, there were 45 officers in the Bay Area who missed critical information in their hiring process, like fingerprints, proof of citizenship, graduation records, and incomplete psychological exams and background checks, all because they were in a rush to get people on the street to help protect the people of San Francisco because the mayor fucked them. They had no choice. McCray warned that the police department cannot be the cheaper alternative to productive city policing, urging leaders to take action and invest in other alternatives. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, McCray said. I get people need a helping hand, but damn, how much? Do we just give them everything? You got to earn some of these things in life. So either get with it or, you know what? Step aside. And I guess we'll just come in and keep trying to fix the problem. Reed pledged to bolster public safety and enhance policing during her State of the City address this year, while also vowing to curb the city's drug epidemic. And it's not just the police officers that are quitting, but there are literally many stores and restaurants in the San Francisco Bay Area that are calling it quits and closing down. Major places like Targets, McDonald's, Taco Bell. There are many places that have been robbed repeatedly over and over and over again that they just went, fuck this. We can't do this anymore. Not to mention the people coming in and stealing their shit and just walking out the front door, and there's no cops to call. Between January and February this year alone, there were 131 accidental drug overdose deaths, according to San Francisco Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Between January and February. I want everyone to come here and visit, but you can't do that. If you got to keep stepping over people shooting drugs in their neck, toes, God knows where else in their body. No one wants to see that, McCray said. I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was a proud member of the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office for several years. And at that time, the city was a really nice place. And those in charge cared about our law enforcement officers and cared about our communities and cared about people that were vacationing there, cared about our kids. But that's all changed. It's now a shithole. It's like Chicago. And that's sad. You know, I've had to rag on law enforcement, some law enforcement, many times doing this show. When they do shit that's just fucked up. All right. I don't believe in the good old boy society where just because you're a cop and they're a cop, you let them go unchecked and do shit that's illegal. Whether it's stealing drugs or stealing money off somebody they arrested or having sex with somebody they've already put in handcuffs, or hurting someone after they've already got them in cuffs, or brutality towards someone when there was no need to continue the escalation of violence. I've always been one that said, look, you got to draw a line somewhere. You have to have morals and values and beliefs, and you have to put those. In fact, when I was going through my background check for San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, one of the questions in my interview, in-person interview in front of this panel was, if you're at work and let's say you're in the sheriff's office and you go over to a candy machine or a soda machine and you see one of your fellow officers walk up and say, oh, you don't have to put money in that. Watch this. And they kick it or shake it to get the money or to get the item to fall out, whether it's a soda or a candy bar. what would you do? Now, I know that maybe this is taking it to an extreme, but I knew what the answer was that they wanted. That's common fucking sense. You would report it, okay? Because it's not right. The cop just broke the law. He stole from the company that's running those vending machines. But this goes along with everything else in law enforcement. Do you have what it takes to step up and say, no, this is not right? What you did is wrong, and do something about it? So it pains me when I see law enforcement in some situations in our country where there's a bad apple, because that bad apple taints the entire force. You know, it, especially for liberals and Democrats, it makes them, you know, paint everybody with the same brush. The cops are all bad. That's how we kind of got where we're at now with Colin Kaepernick's bullshit about cops are racist bigots. Are there some racist bigot cops? You bet there were. And maybe there still are some today. And when we find them, we weed them out. We have cops that are heavy-handed and they do bad shit and they hurt or they kill somebody that they're trying to take into custody illegally with an illegal chokehold or their knee to their fucking neck, okay? We prosecute them. But because there's some bad apples, that doesn't mean that everybody is corrupt in law enforcement. But what we've been watching happen with the FBI, and I've got some friends that work in the FBI. I've had the FBI involved with me personally with what I do with this show because of death threats. The men and women that are out there on the streets doing the job are not the problem. The problem at the FBI is the leadership and the failure to hold those leaders accountable for their actions. And we've been seeing that. It's just it's a revolving door of shit. And it's very, very, very sad to see. And it paints a broad brush. I have no doubt in my mind, and every police officer that I know and former police officer and those that I work with all saying the same damn thing. Even my friends that are in the FBI are saying the same thing. This leadership has to be changed. We can no longer operate as a political wing of the Democrat Party, which is what they're doing. Now, this particular story is not about politics, but it's just another level of the FBI doing something really fucking stupid and not making damn sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted before you involve the citizens, especially those that are innocent. Members of the FBI and the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, who were conducting a training exercise in downtown Boston, raided the wrong hotel room and detained the person inside before realizing their mistake. The FBI said in a statement to CNN. The FBI said its Boston division was helping the military with a training exercise around 10 p.m. this past Tuesday to simulate a situation their personnel might encounter in a deployed environment. Based on inaccurate information, they were mistakenly sent to the wrong room, busted in, and detained an individual, not the intended role player, the FBI said. And then they did something that's kind of shocking because you don't really expect this to come from. I'm sorry. Let me back up. The FBI didn't apologize. The U.S. Army apologized. First and foremost, we'd like to extend our deepest apologies to the individual who were affected by the training exercise, said Lieutenant Colonel Mike Burns, U.S. Army Southern Command. The exercise was meant to enhance soldier skills to operate in realistic and unfamiliar environments, Burns said, adding the incident is under review. No one was injured, thank God. The incident took place at the revered Hotel Boston Common, according to the Boston Police Department. CNN has reached out to the hotel for comment. Boston Police Incident reports that officers were called to the hotel around 12:20 a.m. Wednesday and were met by law enforcement agents conducting a training exercise. Local news reported that the person who was at the hotel was detained by the federal law enforcement agents, was a Delta Airlines employee on a layover. The Atlanta-based airline told CNN that they're looking into this incident that involved their employee. So the FBI didn't apologize for that. Nor did they apologize when they raided a friend of mine's museum in Denham Springs, Louisiana, a few years ago, when somebody called in basically a bomb threat and said that this guy has bombs in his museum. Everybody in Denham Springs, Louisiana, everybody in Livingston Parish, which is like a county everywhere else, but here we call them parishes, knew who this guy was and what he had in this building. Demilled military equipment that he brings out twice a year for Memorial Day and Veterans Day and displays them for the community to see. It parades for veterans and things of that nature. He's very, very involved with the USS Kidd Memorial Museum in Baton Rouge, where his father used to be on the commission there. He himself painted the aircraft that are on display there. Every police officer in the area, the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, was the Denham Springs Police Department. They all knew what was inside his buildings. Yet the FBI on that tip came in, even after being told, wait, we're fixing to fuck up. This isn't what's really happening there. We know this guy. We know what he's got. It's not real. They're not real bombs. They're dummies, or it's demilled equipment. He's been parading this around for years now. The FBI said, we don't care. And they went in and they raided the fucking place. And they came and they did a statement to the news media that there was a possible terrorist at that location that was making bombs to threaten and kill Americans. Now, those that did not know who he was in other places of the country thought that there was a fucking terrorist there. They destroyed this guy's business, his museum. They took these demilled bombs out to a location and blew them up. And once they realized their mistake, to this day, they have yet to come out and say, we're sorry, we fucked up. Nope. Nor was there an investigation, to my knowledge, or anyone else's knowledge in law enforcement, that they tried to hold the person accountable that had an axe to grind with my friend that called in or did this fake bomb threat. But the FBI was completely aware and told by all the local law enforcement, this is not what you think it is. We can easily walk over there. He will show you around and you can see everything. You do not have to have this tactical fucking force and riot gear and AR-15s go rush it in there and destroy shit and arrest everybody. This is stupid. But the FBI did it anyway. So when shit like that happens, It's because of leadership, failed leadership, leadership that doesn't have common damn sense. It happens not only in law enforcement, it happens in the United States military, it happens at fucking Walmart, it happens at McDonald's, it happens everywhere. But it's expected that you're going to have some failed leadership at Walmart or at a McDonald's. It's not expected that you're going to have failed leadership at the FBI or your local police department or sheriff's department or 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Anyway, you had many places you can be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you. Surprised we got through the show without losing power with the weather conditions we're having here. If you heard the thunder that was going on in the background, I'm sorry for that. Nothing I could do, but at least, wow, the internet worked throughout the entire storm. If you haven't already done so, folks, please like and subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends and family about it. Also, check out my other YouTube channel, Charlie Hotel 47. Go check out DouglasDucote.com. In the description of this video and all my shows and all my videos, you can see where you can follow me on other social media platforms. If you happen to be on those platforms, please send me a friend request, and I'll do the same for you in return. That's how this works as we continue to spread conservative values across this country and hold everyone accountable, regardless of their political party or affiliation or their financial money in their pocket, accountable for their actions if their actions are wrong. And that's what it's all about. Folks, thank you. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. Hope you all have a wonderful and blessed weekend. Whatever you're doing, please be safe. And I'll see you back here on Tuesday night next week. If anything breaks between now and then, I'll put out a video about it, or I'll do a special report live show. Other than that, I'm off to have a wonderful weekend myself. And I hope you will too. And happy Easter. Take care, everyone.